Well, hello everyone, and welcome to LifeWave Connect. It is wonderful to be with you here today, and we thank you for joining us. Today is something very special, and I'll get into the specifics in just a second. But for those of you that are new, LifeWave Connect is our opportunity to connect with you at least twice a month. And we focus on these calls specifically on business training and product training. And today is one of our product training calls. Every other Wednesday, we have a call at 11 o'clock a.m. Pacific and at 6 o'clock p.m. Pacific. And now this is a really great time for you to come and get a little feel for what LifeWave is, get some training, and connect with your larger LifeWave family. During our 11 a.m. session, we do provide translation services for all of our supported European languages. And in our evening session at 6 p.m. Pacific, we provide translation services into Spanish, Chinese, and Japanese. Both sessions are presented in English. It's a great opportunity, like I said, for you to connect with our larger LifeWave family and get some training in the mix. So we encourage you to share LifeWave Connect with those that are joining your team or those that maybe haven't had the opportunity to be a part of our calls in the past. You can always find the registration link for our LifeWave Connect calls if you go to lifewave.com and select the events section. Now, once you've registered, you don't have to register every time. You'll receive a notification through Zoom of the webinar, and you'll be able to join the call. But you do need to register the first time, and we really do encourage you to have those on your team do the same. It's a lot of fun. Now, especially today, we have a special treat for you. We know that all of you love hearing about our products, and we know that all of you love hearing from our founder, David Schmidt. Now, he is very busy in the process of developing new products and running the company, but he loves to be able to come and share knowledge that he has through research and development on really important health topics, especially relating to LifeWave technology. And today is no exception. David is with us today, and I am very excited for the topic that he'll be covering today. Many of us, as we've started this brand new year, we are focusing on our health. And one of the core foundational, most important pieces of health really is to get great sleep. And David's going to talk a little bit about why great sleep is so important. Why do we want to do all the things that we can to make sure that we have healthy sleep habits and what it can do for our bodies and support our overall health. Also, some of you may already know, we do have a great patch product called Silent Nights that has been shown in clinical studies to really help and support healthy sleep habits. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome David to the call.
Okay. Hi, Emily. Great to see you.
Hi. Welcome so much. We're really glad to have you. It's such a treat, David.
Awesome. It's always great to be here, Emily. And I've really enjoyed doing the LifeWave Connect with you. And I think we make a great team with this. So very much looking forward to talking about sleep and its importance. And of course, how our members can optimize the quality of their sleep.
Absolutely. For those of you that have never met David before, like I said, he is the founder of our company. He is our CEO, and he did develop our LifeWave technology. So it is really exciting, David. I'm glad that we get to do these together and that our members get to experience who you are, because you are the heart of our company. So thank you. I'm really excited. So, like I said before, we're going to talk about sleep, everyone. We're going to talk about why is sleep so important. And David has some pretty great stuff for you today. We're going to talk about rules of thumb when it comes to sleep, sharing some research on why sleep is so important, supplements and support that you can use that will help you, Silent Nights included, to have great sleep. And we kind of like to follow a question and answer sort of style when we're on here. So I'll ask David some non-scientific questions and David will share some really great information with all of you. So buckle up, get your notepads, get ready to write this down. We are recording these presentations though, so you will be able to access them later through our YouTube channel. So don't feel like you have to write everything down. Enjoy the presentation as well. But hang on, it's going to be good. You ready, David?
Okay. Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay. So the whole point of this discussion is really, like we talked about, sleep. So David, do you mind telling us a little bit about why is sleep so important for us as humans?
Yeah, it seems pretty obvious, right? Is that you have two states in the body, anabolic and catabolic metabolism. So, anabolic is a state of building up, and catabolic is a state of tearing down. So, one way we can think about this is that when we're exercising, when we're making new cells, this is part of tearing the old cells down, breaking things down. That's catabolic. Anabolic is building things up. People sometimes associate that word with steroids, but it's really more, in this case, it's more in reference to the process of the body's ability to repair itself. And about 80% or so of anabolic metabolism building up is going to be occurring at night. So we want to be able to optimize that amount of time. Not too much, not too little, just try to get it in that right zone, which is 7, 8, 9 hours per day, which is, of course, is very difficult for many people to achieve. Sleep is also a preventative measure, and we don't often think about it this way, but good quality sleep has been linked to the prevention of different health disorders like Alzheimer's disease. So, for example, when people don't get enough sleep, they can accumulate a protein in the body. It's called beta amyloid 2, and it's been shown that this protein is closely associated with Alzheimer's. So, by simply getting enough sleep each day, we can help to protect from getting Alzheimer's.
Wow. So yeah, it does sound like it is pretty important. I mean, I don't know about you, and I know many of us have loved ones that have experienced some of the things that come along with that terrible disease. And I know none of us want to experience that personally. It'd be nice to be able to avoid that if possible. So.
Sure. Yeah. And, I think it's good. I'm going to share my screen here for a minute. And I want to pull up a reference from the National Institute of Health. And so, what we do here is we try to give references from reputable sources that people can pull up and go through. And there's actually quite a bit of information on the NIH website having to do with sleep deficiency and sleep deprivation. We can normally think of sleep deprivation as maybe being under in the range of 4 to 6 hours or less of sleep per night. And of course, disorders like sleep apnea, this can lead to some very, very serious health problems. And of course, that's considered a medical condition. So, but anyway, this is a resource that I found that I wanted to refer people to. And you can read a little bit more about the necessity for sleep and an overview of the subject here.
Oh, awesome. And so everyone can look at that link at the top. And I'm sure that Tiffany with our events team can post that as well in the chat. So right. I really appreciate how you share these resources with us, David. I know a lot of us really like to be able to reference and learn more. So this is so helpful. Thank you so much.
Sure thing.
Yeah. So, you've talked a little bit about, some of the things that could happen if we are sleep deprived, if we're not getting sleep. Could you maybe go into a little bit more of maybe what are some of the areas of our health that can be affected if we don't get sleep?
Yeah, it can really affect everything. I did pull up one reference here that I thought was worth it. Of course, the quality of sleep, generally speaking, it can decline with age. And this would be a normal age-related decline in the quality of sleep, along with some other things. And it's important for us to understand what is actually changing in the body that is leading to this, because we can take some corrective measures as opposed to doing things like taking sleep medications, which is not really resolving the problem. Right? We want to try to solve the problem without drugs if we can. So this was an important reference because it's referring to one of the many functions that occurs when we sleep. And this has in the general category of anabolic metabolism, meaning that we are building things up in the body. So sleep is important to a number of brain functions, including how nerve cells communicate with one another, and also replenishment of new brain cells. So essentially, when we think about everything else that's happening in the body, it's ultimately got to be regulated by the brain. It's often thought of that Karen Kahn and I were actually talking about this last night on a talk that we're going to be giving as part of NOVA, which we'll take a plug for now. But in terms of how the brain is actually functioning, we think of the hypothalamus as being the control center of the brain, where really this happens in the pineal gland. And so when sleep is initiated, it's going to occur through a release of specific hormones. And some of those hormones are going to originate in the pineal gland and the hypothalamus. So this is all to say the reason why this is all important is because if we're not getting proper sleep, this can throw off the balance or the homeostasis of every single other system in the body. So in other words, if your pineal gland and your hypothalamus are regulating not only sleep, but your body temperature, your immune system response, and so forth, then that means that not getting enough sleep can lead to a problem with your immune function, and then hence your susceptibility to things like infection. Even melatonin has been shown to be a very powerful antiviral. So this is almost like a defense mechanism that the human body has built up. Whereas we get enough sleep, we release this surge of melatonin, and this helps to not only recharge our immune system, but act chemically to protect our immune system from harmful bacteria and viruses, amongst other things.
Wow. Well, I knew it was definitely important, but I don't think all of us really understand that like getting that proper sleep can really impact like basically everything within our body, right? Like how our cells work, how they repair, everything, right? So can you help us understand a little bit more of that and like how that comes into play as well?
Yeah, maybe let's use a specific example of how this might affect a number of different individuals. Let's start with athletes. I know that you love to train. You like to take care of yourself. I love to train. And so let's say that you have someone that is really focused on their body composition. When you're not getting enough sleep, this can lead to increase in stress. This can elevate cortisol, and this can make it much more difficult for the body to not only build muscle, but the body goes into a state of stress. And now we're going to have a tendency to store more body fat. So that's not going to be very good. Whereas on the other hand, if we're getting enough sleep, now not only are we reducing our stress hormones, but now we're giving our body more time to be in anabolic metabolism and building up lean muscle. So in other words, let's say that you're going to the gym and you want to change the composition of your body, build more lean muscle, reduce body fat. Sleep is important because it's that window of time where you can take your proper eating habits and you can take the exercise that you were doing in the gym, and now you'll be able to build that lean muscle more efficiently, more quickly. As a matter of fact, when you have trainers in Hollywood and they're going to take a movie star and they want to put that movie star on a special diet to build muscle and get ready for that body part, I love superhero movies. So, I follow some of the exercise routines some of these actors go on, but sleeping 8-9 hours a day is an integral part of that routine. Now, on the other side, let's talk about the rest of us that maybe, we may want to look like some of those Hollywood actors, but that's not our job. Our job is to be as efficient as possible at our work. And now this is going to depend on cognitive function. So in this case, it's pretty self-evident, right? We all know that when we haven't had a good night's sleep, that we have to resort to things like caffeine to get us awake and get going. And there's been some, back and forth on this whole subject of caffeine. Is it good? Is it not good? Different clinical studies are divided on this subject, and it does seem to be a great deal dependent on the person's biochemistry and genetics. So that's all to say, some people can tolerate caffeine, others can't. But when we're talking about this, ideally, we want the body to be in a natural cycle. We want to be sleeping at the proper time, sleeping for the optimum length, and then also getting into a deep level of sleep. So when we wake up, we feel refreshed, our hormones are recharged. For men, as an example, when you're waking up, your testosterone levels are peaking like they should be, and you're not shortchanging yourself. So sleep is going to be important as well, of course, for our overall cognitive function, our hormonal balance, and our body composition.
Wow. I think it's an interesting, I don't know that we want to dive into some of the stats on sleep deprivation necessarily, but, I know that it's a chronic problem that a lot of people deal with, just that they can't sleep, or they don't have the time to sleep, or they are eating things that make it harder for them to sleep, or they might just have some conditions that make it a challenge. So it's so interesting to hear you share all these specifics on why sleep is important, how it affects different areas of the body, because gosh, I can see why it's so critical. Now, I know that there have been some questions that are popping up in the chat, and I know you and I have kind of discussed this a little bit, but can you kind of explain to us how sleep works, like within the body? Are there things that we need to understand about quality of sleep or different rhythms and things of that nature that you can help us understand?
Yeah, so this gets into how we can optimize the quality of our sleep. And there's actually quite a bit that we can do in this regard. So first thing is, let me pull up this one reference actually, because it's a small component of what it is that we're going to talk about. And really, we want to set the ideal conditions for sleep. So one of them, we're going to just reference this website, has to do with digestion, the time that we're going to eat, the amount of energy that goes into digesting food. And this recommendation is to wait at least 3 hours before your last meal, before you get set up for bedtime. Along that, we want to be thinking about, of course, no stimulants. Some people with exercise, they can do heavy exercise and then go to sleep immediately. Others don't tolerate it as well. So that's something an individual needs to be thinking about. But when I think about getting a good quality of sleep, it's really a process that we need to pay attention to. When we're younger, many of us can sleep, with the lights on, with music playing, we kind of take it for granted. But as we get older, those patterns are going to change, but our need for sleep doesn't necessarily change. So there's some things that we can pay attention to. First thing, as we're all hearing, because of the advent of iPads and smartphones, is we really want to put these devices away 30 minutes to an hour before we get ready to go to sleep, because the light coming off of these devices can keep us awake. We also want to keep these devices as far away from the body as possible. These devices, of course, are emitting radiation. And even though these these energy fields are rather small, they can still have an impact on our biology. So you want to put them as far away from the body as possible. Another thing to pay attention to, and I'll pull up this reference, this will surprise some people, and this is the amount of light that is in your room. So surprisingly, even very, very small amounts of light can inhibit the production of melatonin. So we want to sleep in a room that is as dark as possible, as quiet as possible. And this really goes to another thing that's so interesting about this is, of course, this shows the role that light plays in our health. Of course, all of our LifeWave members know that you can stimulate the body with our patches with very low levels of light and produce some very powerful results. Well, here we show that the production of light, or stimulating the body with light, can actually inhibit the production of melatonin and inhibit the ability of the body to enter into sleep. So these are some of the many things that we can be paying attention to. And, for some of us, maybe we make a little bit of a checklist. We have some reminder by our bed. Hey, did we make sure that we're doing all of these things? And this, of course, is going to pay off with a better quality of sleep.
Oh, I really appreciate those tips. We talk a lot on our business trainings about building habits and about how can we change our behaviors. And I would just put a plug in for one of my favorite books, Atomic Habits, that talks all about how we can stack habits with choosing something new that we tie to an existing habit that we already do and how that can help us. So I would take David's suggestions. Let's make that list and let's tie some of those new behaviors to something you already do to help us to make some of those changes. So I appreciate that, David. Something that I'm always curious about and love to learn about is how food can affect different things in my body, how different supplements can affect different things. But I also like to understand what pieces of the body are being stimulated or supported, I should say, is probably a better word, with those type of things, like different organs or hormones or amino acids. Can you give us any sort of suggestions on what type of things we can do, either through supplementation or what we're eating, that can help us to support healthy sleep?
Sure. The good news is that for people that are having a hard time sleeping, there are so many resources. There's so many different things that they can do to improve the quality of their sleep. So that's the good news, is that we don't have to rely on drugs. One tip that I wanted to give, which people can implement right tonight, this was very interesting. I actually first heard about this from a scientist that was on the Joe Rogan Experience. And he was talking about the necessity of circulation, and what you could do to improve quality of sleep was simply wear socks or keep your feet warm. I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. That makes a lot of sense to me. I really need to go take a look at the clinical study with this. And I found this one again for reference. But sure enough, clinical research on feet warming and improving circulation does in fact show that you can improve sleep quality and extend the length of sleep by about 30 minutes per night. So this is, of course, is something very inexpensive and very quick to implement that anybody can try. And I would definitely encourage people to do that. Now, beyond that, it turns out that, let's say we venture off into what can we do nutritionally to support the quality of sleep. And it really depends on what the sleep problem is to begin with. So let's start with some very simple things. There's, of course, what was known as the old wives' tale, as they used to say, of warming up milk. And milk is very temperature sensitive, as in terms of the biological activity of the amino acids, the protein in milk. And when you warm milk, you destroy the biological activity of most of those amino acids, with the exception of tryptophan. And tryptophan is going to convert over into serotonin and melatonin in the brain. And this is why warm milk taken before bed can improve the quality of sleep. Of course, there's also tryptophan supplements, amino acid pills that people can take, and that's one way to go. Now, it's also important to know that amino acids amino acids are going to compete with one another to get into the brain. So we should be taking these things on an empty stomach. So let's say, for example, someone gets to bed at 6 o'clock. You may want to take these supplements about 9 o'clock at night, just to make sure that they're not competing with any protein that you might have had with dinner. Now, another way that you can go with a supplement for sleep that's going to be good for overall health anyway is magnesium. Now, there are a few different forms of magnesium. There's so any form of magnesium is going to be good, because magnesium, first of all, we need this. And secondly, magnesium is going to tend to relax the nervous system. And we haven't gotten to talk about the patches yet, but I'm going to cover supplements and then we can get to the patches. But magnesium is going to have a tendency to relax the nervous system. So many people today, they're working long hours, they're under a lot of stress. And part of the reason why they're having a hard time sleeping is because they're under this stress and their nervous system is in overdrive. We're in what's called a sympathetic state, and we want to get into a parasympathetic state, a more relaxed state. So taking magnesium, let's say 200 milligrams, can help us in that endeavor. Now, there's a form of magnesium called magnesium threonate. And the advantage of this type of magnesium is that it gets into the brain more efficiently than magnesium citrate or magnesium glycinate, which are other common forms of magnesium. So bottom line is that any form of magnesium is potentially going to help, but I would recommend magnesium threonate. Now, there's some other things too. Green tea has a amino acid in it called theanine, and theanine will also relax the nervous system. This is something that can be purchased as a supplement, and that's another way to go about relaxing the nervous system. And then finally, in terms of supplements, something that's very, very interesting. I've been looking at this, as a matter of fact, in terms of developing a new patch. I haven't quite got it right yet, though, but it's going to be a future patch. And this is manipulating taurine metabolism in the body. Now, some people may recognize the name taurine because it's an ingredient in Red Bull. And the reason why taurine, which is an amino acid, is in Red Bull is because it tends to calm the body down. But more importantly, it calms the brain down. So taurine is going to be found in the brain and the heart, other areas of the body. It's found in men, it's found in the genitals for a reason that's not really quite known yet, or it's very well not understood. But in any case, one thing that's known about taurine is that when people are having a lot of thoughts racing through their head, taurine can help to calm down that noise and put people into a state where they can relax. So taurine is not going to necessarily put people to sleep, but what it does do is it gets the brain to calm down. So now the brain can get into a state of relaxation and then go to sleep. So there's many, many natural options when it comes to sleep.
Oh, I really love you sharing that, because I know a lot of people in our LifeWave family are looking for options that can help them with things that they struggle with without having to take drugs, and they can use something that's a little bit more natural, whether it's found in food or through reputable sources of supplementation. So I think that's really great that we can really understand a little bit more of what can support our overall health. But I know we already hinted at it. We have a really special solution that we want to talk about here that's related to the technology that you've developed, David. So can you talk to us a little bit about specifically Silent Nights, and then maybe some of our other patch products that also support healthy sleep? Would you mind doing that? And also
Sure.
Placement options too. People are like, where do I put it? Where do I put it?
Sure. Yeah. There's an awful lot of choices for just the patches. And I would look at it as the patches are a support, they're an aid, they're an overall part of a program for improving the quality of sleep. So you want to increase your odds of having a good night's sleep. So avoid the heavy meals too close to bedtime. Be conscious of when you're exercising. Keep your feet warm. Keep the room dark. We want to be doing all of these things. And so then the patches can produce the best results possible. So, of course, the first patch that we want to look at is Silent Nights. And I'll get to the clinical research on this in just a minute. But if we want to look at some of our options, they can include Silent Nights, Alavita, the Eon patch, Nirvana, and carnosine as some examples. X39 also, there's some options of using that during the day or at night, and that's something that can be experimented with. But let's start with silent nights, since it's one of the subjects of this webinar. And of course, this product has been around for a long time. I started doing research into ways to improve sleep back in 2005, and that was really the advent of the Silent Nights product. So we started with this one study. This is one of the studies that we did over time. And this was actually one of the first studies that we did with Dr. Melinda Connor. And this was a pilot study. So we just wanted to see, were we going to show any kind of effect with the product? And we wanted, of course, to look at the hormone profile in the body. We did something called GDV, and this is a bioelectrical measurement. And what's good about this approach is that you can do a traditional blood or urine analysis, and then you combine this with a bioelectrical test, and it gives you two different pieces of the puzzle. So you can see how someone is responding to the technology on two different levels. And then, of course, we always use questionnaires, which are clinically relevant questionnaires, to ask people what the quality of their sleep is like. And this helps to determine, do we have a legitimate effect that's going on, or are we witnessing a placebo? And of course, you can see here, even in this pilot study, that we were able to achieve statistical significance. In fact, 2 of the 5 people showed that over a 7-day period of time, they're getting over a 200% increase of melatonin, which is pretty extraordinary.
Wow.
Compared to the melatonin pills that people would take. What's also worth it to note about this is that our patches are not putting any melatonin into the body. We're simply stimulating the skin with light, and this is causing the body to balance out its own levels of melatonin. So this is a study. We won't go through the entire thing, but the important thing is we just did a very small pilot study, and we found, of course, that the product was working. Now, we did another study with Dr. Norm Shealy, and this was a double-blind, placebo-controlled study, much larger, with 50 people. And Dr. Shealy is extremely well known in the field of alternative medicine and health. He's a medical doctor, and he's also a neurosurgeon. And it has been an absolute privilege to work with him over the years on clinical studies. So again, this is posted to the science section of the website. But what's important here is that we found out that when people were using Silent Nights, there was an average increase in this group of 66%. And the statistic, the p-value is 0.001. So essentially that means that we hit statistical significance on this by a very wide margin. And so in this study, things like the quality of sleep and the length of sleep were being measured. So it basically shows that if someone is having a problem with the quality of their sleep, the amount of time that they're sleeping, Silent Nights would be a good place for them to start. It's substantiated clinically, and it produces a very powerful effect within the first week of use.
Wow. Those are pretty impressive results. You know, I think I'm seeing some comments come on. They're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to take these supplements. And I think that's exciting to know that you can literally put something on your skin that isn't actually putting anything into your body except that light, right? And it can give you the result. That's exciting, different.
Sure. Yeah. And the point is, people don't necessarily have to take supplements, but we want to arm people with information so they have options. So let's say they use Silent Nights, they like the results, but they're saying, I just want to get another 30 minutes or an hour. And, what other options do I have? And so the point of doing webinars like this is, okay, well, here's all the different things that you can try. There's actually many, many options. Now, even when it comes to our patches, of course, Silent Nights is a place to start, but there's many other things in the world of patches that they can do.
Absolutely. You talked about some of the other patches that do work to support sleep. I had a comment that I saw come across that says, I've been using Alavita. It's awesome. Why would I use Silent Nights instead of Alavita? I think maybe some of the questions that people are having is, are some patches better for it than others, or is it really based on your individual needs?
It is definitely based on the individual, and people should use what works for them. And it is important to know and understand what each of the patches are doing so you can kind of fine tune these things. And it's definitely good to experiment. Let's use one example. I'll talk about the Eon patch for a moment. And of course, we can get back to Alavita. The Eon patch is really interesting. Before X39, Eon was definitely one of our top selling products. It was, either number one or number two. And Eon, of course, is going to reduce stress on the nervous system. And most people were using it during the day. It helps to reduce inflammation. So, of course, it's great for anti-aging and also pain management. But I think for many years, what was overlooked was the benefit of using the Eon patch at night to improve the quality of sleep. So for myself, since the release of X39, I've shifted over to using the Eon patch in the evening, and I've been really pleased with the results in that it will de-stress the nervous system, get you to feel nice and calm. I'd recommend applying it maybe about an hour or so, 30 minutes to an hour before going to sleep, and you'll feel your body progressively de-stress and relax and put you in a really nice state to go to sleep. So Eon is a product that could be used with or without Silent Nights. Now, as an alternative, let's talk about Alavita. We know what Silent Nights is designed to do. It's designed to elevate melatonin. Alavita, though, was developed as a means to reduce the levels of oxidative stress on the skin. And so what in the world would that have to do with the quality of sleep? Well, the Alavita patch will cause the pineal gland of the brain to release a peptide called epithalamine or epitalon. And we found out some really interesting things about this. Epithalamine has some very potent anti-aging, life-extending features. It can also help to support the overall function of the immune system. And what we were really looking for was a means by which we could have a new way of improving the quality of the skin from the inside out. And we found that epithalamine would reduce oxidative stress. So less oxidative stress, better quality skin. But interestingly enough, we found that when you would wear it at night, it would trigger an increase in melatonin. And as a result, people would get a better quality of sleep. Many people also notice they have some interesting brain activity with Alavita, such as being in a waking dream state, more intense dreams, and other effects like that. And we used a device in our lab called the biopulsar to actually see that, and also electrointerstitial scanning. And we actually saw that the Alavita patch will increase the bioelectrical activity in the frontal lobes of the brain. So it's not just anecdotal. When people say they have very intense dreams, we can actually see this bioelectrically. So yes, you can definitely get a good quality of sleep with Alavita. It works differently than Silent Nights, And to your point, it's all up to the individual.
Wow. I guess it really does show that every individual is different. Yeah, every individual will respond differently based on how their body works. But I do like that we have this clinical research that you've shared with us on all of our products, not just what you've shared today, that really helps us to understand what it's doing. And then it's up to us to try it and see how it works for us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Emily, one thing that we didn't really cover is probably some of the patches that wouldn't be desirable
Yeah.
to wear in the evening. One obvious one is going to be the glutathione patches. Glutathione, now some people can wear it at night, but I'd really recommend against it because glutathione is going to increase the rate of detoxification. And when you're sleeping, this could lead to a headache when people wake up in the morning from toxins not moving. So it wouldn't be the best outcome to wear the glutathione patch at night. Carnosine is an interesting one. Some people are going to be okay with it. Other people, no. Carnosine as an antioxidant is stored in the brain, and it can increase brain activity. So for some people, what this will mean is their body will be asleep, but they could have intense dreams, or they could even have the feeling of being awake when in fact their body is asleep. So carnosine could be used in the evening, but again, I would take some caution with that. LifeWave is an interesting one because LifeWave is designed to increase the metabolism of the cell to get the energy flowing so we can clear blockages in the nervous system and in the meridians so that we can reduce pain. If someone is in pain and the best way to resolve it is with LifeWave, definitely no issue using it at night. Some people, they may find that it disturbs their level of sleep, but most of the time when people are in pain, if they get relief with LifeWave, they're going to find that they sleep okay. So it's just something to be mindful of with LifeWave. It's most cases, it's not going to be an issue, but it's something to be mindful of.
And did you speak about energy enhancer yet as well? I mean,
no, I think that's kind of self-evident, right? I didn't think there was a need to bring up energy enhancer. I probably should mention X39. X39 can be used during the day or in the evening. Again, when I was speaking with Dr. Karen Kahn, she actually prefers X39 at night because she thinks of it as a patch that's going to help rebuild the body, which of course it is. In our clinical studies, the participants use X39 during the day. And interestingly enough, we get the body into a cycle where even though the patch is not worn in the evening, we still increase production of GABA in the brain. And then this, of course, is going to lead to an improvement in melatonin. So many people starting out just using X39, they're going to find that their quality of sleep improves.
I love that. You know, we get this question pretty much every time we do a webinar with you, but I think it's always good for us to cover it, because we get a lot of new people on here. So we always have these questions about the length of time to wear the patch, the 12 hours, 24 hours, when are they good for, how long are they good for? So can you give us like a kind of an overview on the length of time and why?
Sure. So in the field of phototherapy, there is this concept called attenuation. And it simply means that if you continue to stimulate the skin with light, eventually the body will stop responding. So what we have found over the years is that you could wear the patches for 12 hours and not have any issue at all. As long as you were taking the patches off, the body would not accommodate or attenuate. But leaving the patches on longer begins to present some challenges. For the one thing, the patch is designed to trap body heat. And this is how the patches will work. They're activated by body heat. But after a period of, let's say, 18 hours or longer, a person is more susceptible to developing a heat rash. And this is just going to be a little irritating to the skin. It's nothing serious. So to avoid that, wear the patches for 12 hours or less. But the main thing that we want to avoid by leaving the patches on continuously is eventually the body will stop responding to the patch if you wear it for 18, 24 hours and so forth.
So basically, if we wear it too long, it diminishes the effect over time of what it can have on our bodies if we don't give it a chance to have a break, kind of.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Is that everything, there's on and off cycles in the human body. So we're producing hormones at specific times, certain hormones like for men, because I study the testosterone cycle. I want to understand for men how we can optimize this as we age without hormone replacement therapy. Those levels are going to peak 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. and then decline during the day. So yeah, there's going to be a time for everything in the human body. It's not just on all the time, with a few exceptions like energy production, right? The cells are always producing energy. Yeah, but when we're talking about hormones and neurotransmitters in the brain, they all go in these cycles. And it's very important that we respect it, especially when we're talking about sleep. We're going to be producing melatonin at night. We don't want to be producing melatonin, during the day. That wouldn't be helpful to us. So that's another side to this. We want to respect the body's natural cycles.
That makes sense. One thing that is brought up in the comments, and I know you've spoken about this before, is relating to water. And is that part of why we encourage them to only wear patches a certain amount of time? And does water come into play in that? Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. So everything in the body is going to start and stop with energy. So if we wanted a simple way to understand aging, an important part of this is going to be whether or not our cells are producing energy and how our cells are communicating within one another and with their environment. This is very, very basic to the field of anti-aging and age reversal and biology in general. And this starts in an area of the cell called the mitochondria. Now, in order for our cells to make energy, we need water. And in order to facilitate the removal of normal metabolic wastes and environmental toxins, we also need water. As we age, the size of the cells begin to decrease and the ability of the body to hydrate the cells diminishes. And when we as a company, when we're looking at age reversal mechanisms, one of the important things we look at is how can we keep the cells hydrated? Because if we can keep the cells hydrated, it's going to optimize the electrical and magnetic environment in the cell and can restore youth, or it can help extend lifespan. So water is going to play, an incredibly important part in this. So when we think about sleep, it's really just an extension of every single thing that we're doing. So it goes hand in hand with proper nutrition and proper rest. So without proper hydration, the cells can't make energy, they can't make hormones, we can't sleep.
I love that. Honestly, David, this has been such a great webinar. I feel like I understand so much better how sleep works, why it's important, and then what we can do both with supplements and food, but also with some of our patches to really help us to support healthy sleep. So thank you so much for all
Absolutely.
with us. The comments, Everyone loves it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And thank you all for being a part of our webinar today. You know, we went a little bit longer today than we normally do because I know how much you all love to hear from David and love all the insights he can bring when it comes to the specifics of our product. I would also like to just encourage you to, again, share registration details with those on your team. And also for those of you that haven't yet registered for NOVA, please go ahead and do so. This is going to be a really special conference, different than anything that we've done, different than anything that you've seen. You'll get to hear from David again, which I know is a special treat. And really, it's such a small cost for such an amazing benefit that you'll receive all the great information, connection, and ability to, again, be a part of what we're doing here at LifeWave as part of our larger LifeWave family. So we encourage you to register for that, and we encourage you to continue to join us. We'll be here again in 2 weeks talking about some business topics. So we'll see you all then. Bye-bye now.